Hi, I'm Kate. I'm going to do my takeaway from the discussion for topic 6, I think. So to dive right in, Jennifer made a good point responding to my initial post when she discussed how truly impressive it is that all these figures were proposing certain ideas that weren't that far off from the truth, even hundreds and hundreds of years ago. Um, they were more wrong than right most of the time, but they were right or close enough to being right that, given their resources, it was still pretty admirable. So that was an interesting contribution. And then Jennifer's initial post also stayed with me because I think she summed up in her first sentence the answer to the question that we were talking about that this week. And that was when she said that mechanization and quantification is what makes psychology a science and what moves it away from pseudoscience or philosophy or the supernatural or even religion. And Lindsay reiterated this point. Every week it seems that we find some small answer to the question, how did this topic or these people help psychology evolve as a science? But I think this week's topic, more than any others, answered this question, truly showed psychology becoming a science. Um, uh, I think, or what I've learned in psychology, is that science is math, because science requires objectivity. And we can't trust ourselves as people, especially not when talking about things like the mind, to be objective or really even scientific. That's why we need math to kind of keep us in check. Otherwise, we're just throwing out ideas, and we're probably going to be wrong because we're always biased. Yeah. And finally, Bronya made several really clever contentions. First, they pointed out how neat it was that Barreau used empirical observation of the person being decapitated to make some really trailblazing, revelatory discoveries about the nervous system. Um, that was interesting. And I also appreciated that they pointed out how you can be wrong and still contribute a lot to your field, with the example of Descartes. Um, he was really, really wrong, and yet we're still discussing him so much later and talking about his importance. So nowadays, the scientific method is more rigorous. I think it's harder to be so very wrong and still make it that far, still be considered important, or even have anyone listen to you. But it's still cool to think that you can be that far off the mark and alter history anyway. So those are the parts of the discussion that I thought were particularly interesting.